I chose that walk-on music, I didn't know we're going to follow a chill-out session. So this is cool. All right, so I'm Ilya Mirman, VP of Marketing at Drift. Let's do quick intros, and then we'll jump into the questions that 20 of you and a professional comedian sent me.
Awesome. Well, we'll get right to the questions. I'm Carol Meyers. I'm Chief Marketing Officer of Rapid7, and in my background, I also have a company called Unica, LogMeIn, way back, a company called Shiva. So I've been doing the marketing thing for a long time.
Kevin O'Malley, Vice President of Marketing at SalesLoft. Great to be here.
Joe Chernov, Vice President of Marketing at Insight Squared. I used to work with Dave Gerhardt and others at HubSpot. Hi, HubSpot people. And I was with a company called Eloqua for quite some time before that.
Awesome. All right, so the first question is, what marketing technique that may be tried and true and worked before are you seeing work less now? Either complete disaster or you're seeing the initial signs of a decline.
All right. I'll just be honest and crude. Email sucks. It's terrible. And it's very overused. I don't think it really gets the response that people expect. And it's one of the things that almost everyone in a company is still saying, well, why don't we just email our customers? Or why don't we send these emails, one to many? And it really, even when it's very targeted, it's tough. I think there's a lot better things out there. I think we're still using it a little bit, but I think it's one of the worst tactics we still have going.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would what she said. Insincere emails. I would say is what's not been working, and really just doing as one of the speakers was talking about earlier about authentic leadership and how to apply that to emails. I think is part of what's been missing is the human side of emails.
My friends in the content marketing and inbound world are going to throw some arrows my way, but content marketing, blogs, I couldn't imagine trying to spin up a blog right now and build an audience for it. Like, everybody's doing it, and there's so much noise. Getting your signal heard is unbelievably difficult. I talked to a company, called me one day and asked for some advice about their blog, and the blog was kind of lousy, but it wasn't like that bad. It was like average. But they're a legit brand, like a household name brand. And I asked what the traffic was, and it was measured in like the tens, not the tens of thousands, like the tens. And like if these guys are having that much trouble getting off the ground, and granted, the blog wasn't very good, but so what, could it be in the hundreds if it was good? It's just really hard right now because so many companies have embraced that model. Like the companies behind that model, Eloqua, Marketo, HubSpot, I worked at two of them. Like they did a really good job of making it sound like that's the only way to do marketing. And as a result, everybody rushed to it, and it got hard.
Interesting. What things are working? Kevin, you want to?
I see working is where you orchestrate marketing efforts with sales efforts to look at campaigns that you can coordinate all of your marketing resources towards. So certainly the account-based movement has been contributing or beneficiary of that. And so elements around personalization to support that orchestration, particularly around videos, that has been really impactful. Personalized videos have been something that has been off the charts in our response rates and across our clients as well, with a 26% response rate. So it's tough to top that right now.
So on account-based marketing, if we could just drill down a little bit,
Sure.
How much of it is, and can you talk a little bit about what kinds of things are you doing in terms of a mindset and approach versus using technologies and data to do it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's a mindset. I spoke at the Zoom Info conference recently, and the point I made was like, if you're looking for inspiration for ABM, I would look less at like who the marketing influencer du jour is and what that person's saying, and I would look at like, what's his name on House of Cards? Frank Underwood. Like, it's really political. It's about getting the sales team to do what you want them to do. That part of it is the trickiest part. There's plenty of technology out there, but if you can't get the human side of it working, then those technology investments are gonna fall short. So I think like the easy thing to do is go out and buy an ABM tech stack. You sign a check and voila, you're doing ABM. Just tell everybody. But to really do it is, it's Frank Underwood, right? To really do it is to get people to do your bidding. To really do it is to get sales to approach their job differently, and that's extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, but I think part of the way to get sales bought in is to be able to demonstrate value to them, right? So if you are doing something that is making their job easier, helping them get to quota better, helping them win more customers, I think they're interested in it. So a lot of it is around, I find, being really targeted, really understanding who you're going after, what matters to them, and it's hard work to make sure that you don't treat ABM like email and just say, well, all these people who look like this, we're going to send them some marketing speak email. It has to feel like it's really coming from another person, I think, and it has to speak to their pain points. So it's some work. I think it takes a little bit of data, a little bit of human engineering, and thinking through that process is really important.
Though, right? You would think if you could just prove to the salesperson, like, look you'll make more money if you do this, they'll come running. But old habits die hard. I'll tell a quick story and then I'll shut up for a while. I got this guy who actually used to work for one of the political committees, which is, I think, where the Frank Underwood reference came from. And he said to me one day, we had this direct mail campaign that I was particularly excited about. It was like a 3D printed version of one of the reports within Insight Squared. And I was irrationally attached to it. And he came up to me and he said, Joe, man, I love marketing. I love what you guys are doing, but no more of these 3D models. And I said, why? And he said, one of my ops just called me, and she got it, and she didn't know what to do with it. It wasn't like obvious, so she gave it to her kids, and they didn't want to play with it. It was a rep productivity heat map. Why would a kid want to play with that? And he said, I don't know, but like it was no more. And now I had a table with like $5,000 worth of these models on it. He's influential on the sales floor, so I know word is out, and that's why nobody's claiming these. And so I said, wait, let's back up a minute. She called you? He said, yes. And then what happened? Well, we're in contract. And I said, the problem is what? Like, my job is to get you an audition. My job is to get you on the phone, and like, you do the rest. He said, I got it now. And so Frank Underwood, we had to cut a deal where I gave him some stuff he wanted, and then he had to walk back that criticism on the sales floor, or else I had to eat $5,000 worth of 3D models.
That's fair.
But like, the data was there. It was right in front of him. He had a sale, and yet, you still have that weird back and forth.
So is ABM a harder thing to try because, in marketing because it really takes marketing and sales to do something new and different? Or like relative to, let's say, trying a new thing in marketing as a lead gen vehicle?
Yeah, I think it really is a more underlying theme around, I think prospects want to be treated as humans, and I think that's why movements like Drift have been successful, is that people are seeing the value of a human conversation still, and sending relevant messaging to a more relevant audience. And so ABM is actually just supporting that theme that people are actually going back to sort of what worked in marketing, which is relying on truly understanding your market and tailoring your message to an audience that's gonna respond well to it. So I think that's what ABM is really about.
Cool. When you guys think about 2018,
Ooh, that's a long way away.
2018, well, it's around the corner.
3 months.
So are there new things you're trying to do as opposed to just, scaling the things that work today? New things in marketing.
Joe's always up to something new. Or
We're
And I'm
always
just thinking
trying
about
new
Dreamforce.
stuff.
Spill it.
yeah, we're in
thinking about
Dreamforce
Dreamforce.
mode right now. So yeah, that's a little bit.
Pre-announce it. Let's go.
This is going to sound like it was I'm a plant or something, but I've got to get Drift in my stack. I really do.
You all have to get Drift.
You all have to get Drift in your
No, that's-
stack.
Let's all stop
Yeah.
right now. Get your
Yeah.
computers out.
Look, I can't even get BDRs to staff chat, right? Like their comp structure is misaligned. Again, this is that ABM thing
Yeah.
where you, like
Yeah.
it's this alignment thing. It's tricky. Their comp structure is misaligned with staffing chat because they work on a named account basis, and unless a named account shows up in chat, like it's not in their self-interest to do it. the bot doesn't care. So I'm inclined for that reason alone to get Drift in the stack. I don't have to argue with BDR managers about changing the comp structure.
Pretty strong argument.
A strong argument.
Yeah.
I would say some of the things that we are going to do more of are along the lines of the human touch, right? I think we're all really good at the advertising and the big, the big one-to-many types of things, but we're definitely finding the human touch is becoming more important. I think especially as we've moved into inside sales, you never meet the people behind the product or the company, and a lot of people do want to do that, especially in my business where it has a lot of impact because it's security and it does cost a little bit of money. It's not $39 a month or anything like that. So people like that human touch. So we are doing chat. We're using Drift, which gives us that human touch, and we're doing more events, which is another thing that everyone thought was totally dead and worthless, but everybody's going to Dreamforce. So we do a lot of smaller in-field events. We call them lunch and learns and dinners. And we find that that really works very well for certain stages of the pipeline, as I would say, but more human touch we're interjecting into our processes.
Gotcha. So aside from ABM, are there other traditional marketing playbook activities that you're seeing being enhanced by technology that you're excited about?
I mean, anything marketing gets me excited, but this idea of brand experience, and I think Drift is a great example of that, where you combine both your offline channels and your online channels to unify the brand. And I think I'm seeing that more and more, and we're trying to think what that means for SalesLoft, and how does somebody experience us at an event, and how do you continue that experience when you see us online to ensure the experience as you see us interact with us on social or see us at a dinner or go to our website or go to G2 Crowd. There's sort of a unified experience there, and that's certainly something that I think for marketers we're still wrapping our heads around, because we siloed all these groups. And so now as leaders of marketing, our roles are really to try to bring that together and ensure that's a single experience that's better for our buyers. And that's something I'll be thinking about in 2018.
Cool. Just share for us, the traditional thing is events, and getting the right mix of, you got the big event like this, and then the meetups, both organizing and participating, as well as just other conferences. We're trying to get that playbook working, flywheel going. All right. What's the best campaign you've done in the last 12 months?
The last 12
best
months?
marketing activity or campaign?
Yeah. We had one that was really fun and partially measurable, and I think it's something you guys will like too. We do a lot of security research where we are looking at how attackers are getting in, all kinds of things. So we did a whole series called Under the Hoodie, which was phenomenally successful in driving tons of pipeline, but also just interest. And some of it is still a little anecdotal, unfortunately. I'm a big analytical person. I started my career in finance, but it kind of annoys me a little bit in B2B when people say everything is 100% measurable, because I just don't completely buy it. So we also have a lot of anecdotal things where our director of services will go in and the customer says, the only reason I'm here talking to you is because I loved Under the Hoodie. And we had people tweeting about our ads. We loved your ads. They were so great. And we have a very cynical audience. There is actually a study on security people that shows by nature they are more cynical than the rest of the population. So they don't really like marketing very much. They're always like, oh, you're in marketing? Yeah. We don't really like you. They're happy to tell you to your face. So if they like something, I get really excited about it. And it was a totally integrated campaign, and we gave the research away without a form. Aren't there little things here today that say no forms? No
Say
forms.
no to the form.
Ungated content.
Ungated content. We let it go free.
Free
I
the
think it worked
content.
really well.
We spend a lot on direct mail. We try to do, I know Nikki knows some of this, we do a lot of marketing to our open opportunities to try to accelerate our close rate and to increase deal size. And some of our more premium direct mail campaigns, we've been able to cut by, let me get it right, we've been able to cut to a third our typical up to close rate. So we've been able to just speed up that sales cycle and get more cycles out of our existing AEs. And that's really what that's designed to do, is to try to force that conversation earlier than it might have happened otherwise. These deals may close anyway. But if we can help get them to close faster, then we just have more capacity from our sales team. So we've had a lot of success with that.
That's great.
Nice. One thing I've noticed is this is not your first rodeo for any of you, any of us. Are there things that have worked in another company that you then tried and it didn't work in your current one, or vice versa, things that work in one didn't work in another? And then if you could guess as to why. So that, there's not one standard marketing playbook. It's what's the right thing for the situation.
Good question.
When I came in, we were running the HubSpot model. But if you're going to buy Insight Squared, your sales operations, it's more specific. You are likely a tech company. You are probably venture-backed, and you run Salesforce. That's a much more specific audience. And the HubSpot approach is right for HubSpot. This is not knocking that model, but they don't really care about any of those characteristics, right? They sell to the base of the pyramid. And so their model, where they go wide and they go broad, is smart for that business. But when you winnow it down and you sell to a fairly explicit audience that has to meet certain characteristics, that wide aperture is just not right? My father-in-law sells software to nuclear power plants. And he very sweetly listened to a HubSpot event I did once. And he said, "Should I start a blog?" I was like, "Jeff, you sell to 200 companies and you know all the people. Your iPhone is your marketing program." But a lot of us are closer to Jeff than we are to a company that can sell to, just about anyone. So I think being a little bit more precise and fine-grained versus that wide aperture makes sense for us.
Cool. Is there anything counterintuitive that has actually worked well that we didn't already talk about?
I think there's a lot of hesitancy to invest in events because they are expensive, they're difficult, they get a lot of attention, and if it doesn't go well, everybody in the company knows. Versus a LinkedIn ad, nobody ever asks about it, but they'll ask you about why didn't that event go well. And so events to me is that one that really works as an effective way to elevate the brand. And it's just having the courage to sort of put yourself out there and dream big like Drift has and do it. And I think that's sort of the counterintuitive side is just you hear a lot of people say events is difficult and not worth it, but I think Drift has proven that elsewise.
We had that's a good one. Counterintuitively, we picked a persona that conventional wisdom in the company said was a liability in a sales situation. So we sell sales analytics, so software that pulls all the reporting you'd like to get out of your CRM, but for whatever reason can't, and makes it accessible and easy. And conventional wisdom was, if a sales operations person is on the call, if they're on the opportunity, it's a bad thing because they're going to feel threatened by this, right? Their livelihood is building those complex spreadsheets. And then I was talking to the analyst at Serious Decisions, and the guy used to be a sales ops person, and he really liked the software. And we went back and forth, and we started to talk internally, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're 180 degrees wrong. And as it turns out, sales operations people don't want to be in the spreadsheets. That relegates them to a tactical function. And so we looked at all of our accounts that had a sales ops person on them. And if you had a sales ops person on the account, you closed faster, closed at a higher ACV, you had a higher net promoter score, and you were more likely to renew. So we've gone in a year from shying away from and trying to keep sales ops off of calls to purporting to be the patron saint of sales operations.
Yeah, we've done the same.
Oh, that's great. I'll add, I wouldn't say it's like a great marketing thing that got us lots of new customers, but it's very counterintuitive to me. We put in place an advocacy program, and I'm a big believer, I don't know if anybody reads Dan Ariely, that if you make it a job, people won't do it. They have to advocate for your product because they love it, and I think that's true. And given our cynical audience, I thought for sure if we put in an advocacy platform where they get points, they're going to laugh at us, but I'm a big believer in experiments. I said to the team, go ahead, give it a try. Let's see what happens. Let's try it for 6 months, and it's been phenomenal. It can be hard to get customers to write references just because it's work, but we now have tons of people writing references for us on Gartner and other places because they love this advocacy platform. So I was shocked that it worked well. It's all gamification and points, and it's really doing phenomenal things for us in terms of getting people to share their love for what we do.
Yeah, and just a thing on advocacy. One thing I've noticed, and this was like across 3 companies, quite often people get hung up on or this time is spent on the reward system, the reward program, but really we found several times it's to give people a vehicle, make it easy for them to advocate on your behalf in a variety of ways, and that's where the big win is. So, next question comes from that guy. What are the most effective paid vehicles? And follow-up question, is Facebook at all useful for B2B marketing? Anybody?
So yeah, I'll start it off. The most effective for us has been LinkedIn promoted ads. I think it's a combination of us having a strong competency around creating content that people value, and then we're just obviously elevating it up so that our relevant audience can see it. So it's not just the platform itself that's working well, but it's the combination of us understanding our audience and then creating content that people are interested in. And so the LinkedIn promoted ads helps us reach that. The Facebook, I've probably overinvested on that platform. It does not get the same engagement as other social platforms for advertising. So for us, it doesn't work, but I'm sure there are product lines out there that it's more effective for.
Have you seen any success on?
A little bit with Facebook. Paid isn't a huge part of our marketing mix, but we've seen some with LinkedIn, more with Twitter than Facebook for us. Has been good.
Yeah.
We, because we have such an explicit audience, LinkedIn tends to be best for us because we kind of know exactly who they are and what role and what type of company. Between Eloqua and HubSpot, I was at a company called Convey, and it's B2B-ish. We sold a service to developers, and when we wanted these developers to become part of our community, before we got them to use the product, we tried to get them to convert on a piece of content. Facebook was the most cost-effective medium. It was really inexpensive. There were a lot of them, right? It was really inexpensive to get them to take their first conversion on Facebook. I think it was cost me like 25 cents a conversion. It was pretty economical, where LinkedIn was significantly more expensive there. So it's kind of like more about the size of the audience. It was B2B-ish. It wasn't explicitly B2B. It was still individuals, but it was individuals, at an organization. Facebook was a little better there.
Cool. Next question is, what can I cut from my marketing? So you don't know the company that asked.
I know.
I do.
So.
But
Certainly not my director of marketing who's standing up there right now. Eric Martin.
No. But what would you cut? If you think about the marketing mix and stack of everyone here, what are the things, or if your own, what would you cut? Go.
Go. We don't like to
I
cut
know.
back on
I saw that
spend.
question
We
and
spend
I
money.
thought, terrible answers. It kind of depends. What's working for you? What's not working for you? I have been cutting. So what I have been cutting is I do like events, but I've been cutting a lot more sponsored events in favor of doing our own things. I find that you don't really know the audience there. There's like 1 billion of them, and so we've been trying to cut back on what we do, where we sponsor someone else's event and create more of our own experiences.
Yep.
It's conceivable, I've talked about this with Mike Volpe, it's conceivable to cut your marketing automation system. I know it's sitting right there in the middle of your marketing tech stack, right? It's the hub of the wheel. But, there's Salesloft. There's that turn BDRs into mini marketing automation people themselves. You get all your campaign tracking in Salesforce, your reporting Insight Squared on top of it. I'm not sure what marketing automation really does right now.
The forms are going to go away.
I think that's a good, bold idea.
We
I like
argue,
it.
what even lives in Marketo anymore? And
A lot of autoresponders.
A lot of autoresponders.
so I could see a path for that part of marketing going
Yeah.
away, like the hub of the
I
wheel.
think that's good. I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
If I could cut that out, I would.
But
I
you
don't know
might
how
be able to.
It's like a,
Do you just think you don't know how
they've
to?
got me.
Cool. So next question is on sort of conversation or live chat, putting that on your website as a way to engage people. Have you guys, to what extent have you experimented with that, and have you seen it be an additive thing versus cannibalizing another lead source? Is it a net new thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we are using Drift at Rapid7, and we tried chat before, and we had a lot of problems. We couldn't get anyone to staff it. But the good news now is that we own the BDRs, so that really helps. And that Drift, people are loving what we're doing with it. So we're kind of piloting it. We aren't using a lot of the chat bots yet because we really wanted to get a feel for it, who comes on, what do they ask, before we started automating things. It's not converting quite as well as people who come to our website and fill out forms, oddly enough. I think they're really desperate maybe when they fill out a form, so they really want some help, but it's converting very, very well. We've generated millions of dollars of pipeline out of putting chat on. And what we have found very interesting is the people who are chatting are the more senior people. Mm-hmm. So we are B2B, and we sell to what's called a Chief Information Security Officer, VP of InfoSec, down to people who are a network security engineer. The network security engineers are filling out forms, downloading trials. It's the VPs and the CISOs who are asking to chat with us. So we've found that pretty fascinating.
Cool. Kevin, I think you at least experimented.
Yeah, we use live chat right now. We've been using it for a couple of years, and we've experimented anywhere from hiding it to certain pages, having it only come up on the pricing page, to having it really be in front of you and track who's going and pop up when it's the right prospect. And it gets incredible results. It gets conversations. It actually works. But for us, it's also figuring out when and when not to use it. Depending on where they are in the buying cycle, we may allow them to download the content versus inserting ourselves in that conversation. But as they come back to our site, chat becomes more and more relevant because you want to have that conversation because you know who they are and you want to get them in the conversation at that point. So it's
cool. Yeah. My company uses Drift. and the data we've seen is, so we have a free product sign up and a blog and do some events. And some people do, both sign up for the product and chat in. What we did find is that there's about 15% more. So adding live chat as a way to engage added about 15% to the top of the funnel in terms of number of leads, and about half the pipeline. So they're
when we
2-3 times.
Pull the lever all the way up where we're gonna make sure that chat is going to be seen by a visitor, and we're gonna engage in a conversation. Within 2 weeks, it was 40% of our contacts or demos got scheduled through chat. So it's an incredible tool. But going back to your point, staffing was an issue, and education, and not everybody wants to be on chat. So it's the other side that's sort of operationalizing it needs to be thought through. So that's where we started pulling it back a little bit.
Somebody needs to create a Tumblr of chat dialogues, because man, there's some funny stuff that comes through in chat. There's some crazy people out there.
Yeah.
It'd be a good Tumblr. You should start.
It is not a pickup channel.
We'll
Seen that.
need to blur out not just the names.
That's right.
Okay, so one of the questions is, staffing chat is expensive. How do you know if it's worth it? How do you think about it? Staffing chat is expensive.
Staffing chat.
Well,
Not doing it is
you can
expensive.
use all the automation that you have and reduce the amount of staffing that's needed, right, by letting the bot do some of the filling out of it. But we use our BDRs and we give them a certain time of day, and I think you get really smart about when you put the chat up, where you put the chat up,
That's right.
and you can prove out the ROI that way, I think, pretty easily.
Okay, good.
She said.
Well, yeah, we see that it really empowers the BDR. So it's not they can spend more of the time answering the questions. But you got to think of it, this is another lead source. It'll look at the
Absolutely.
time involved, cost per
Yeah.
lead, cost per opportunity, cost per
Absolutely.
sale.
5
that
conversations
sort of
going
thing.
on any given time with a rep versus 1 phone call, right? So you can only have 1 phone call, but with chat you can have 5 sessions going on at any given time. So you can, if you operationalize it right, you can make it a really efficient tool for your reps to use.
No, that's very true. Our BDRs will say, I chat and I'm on the phone
Yeah,
at
that's
the
right.
same time, and I'm okay, I feel totally productive.
Yeah, and we found that it's not a replacement of the BDR. It's just
That's right.
it's there 24/7. The bot's not.
The
asking
bot's
for
only going to
breaks,
make you smarter.
Not asking
That's
for
right.
equity.
Exactly.
So, okay, great. So it looks like that was the
was
last
it.
question. So I want to thank you guys very much for participating.
Our
Thank you guys for
pleasure.
listening.
Thank you for having us.